And back now to that that story relating to the reopening of schools. As promised, we are joined by the Gauteng MEC because officials from the Gauteng Education Department will visit schools that have told learners to report for class today. And last week, the Department of Basic Education announced a delayed opening of schools due to the second wave of the coronavirus. But despite the announcement, some independent schools have decided to go ahead with contact learning. So the announcement comes after COVID-19 infections in the country and in the province in particular have spiked. Gauteng Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi joins us on the line now. MEC, good morning. Thanks for being with us on Morning Live.
Good morning, Sakina, and compliments of the new season.
And to you. MEC, let's perhaps just start with clarity with regard to the announcement of returning to school. So, as it stands right now, there are schools who have chosen to return to class for contact learning, but mostly public schools seem to have stayed away. So what exactly is that announcement to schools?
Thank you so much, Sakina, for the opportunity. The announcement was very clear. Remember, it's an announcement that came from Cabinet on the advice of health experts that they think that we should delay the reopening of schools by 2 weeks. And this affects both private and public schools. And we're indeed worried to hear reports. I've been inundated personally by parents who are receiving letters or emails from their schools indicating that children must come to school for a face-to-face learning. We really believe it's reckless, irresponsible, and therefore we will take appropriate action as a department, especially those institutions that are within our province. Our province is recording unprecedented number of infections, and we can't contribute to those numbers. The reality is both private and public hospitals can't cope. And with the return of workers in our province, you know our province is the economic hub of our country. With the return of people from outside the country in terms of utilizing our borders and those firms that are reopening today, we really felt that it would be correct not to overburden both the health system as well as the institutions that are assisting us to manage the virus. And that is why we're the first province to recommend to the minister that we should delay the reopening of schools. Not because we don't want our learners to learn, purely because evidence is there that our hospitals are not coping, our frontline staff in terms of health institutions are not coping, and therefore we can't bring almost 2.3 million learners with almost half of those numbers being parents, being part of our schooling environment. You will recall other parents will come to our province purely because they're bringing back their children here. So it will overburden the entire institution. But we are monitoring the system, I can assure you. We are also monitoring those institutions that we already believe are behaving recklessly, and we are working with law enforcement agencies to ensure that they get the necessary charges, if we have to lay charges with law enforcement agencies.
But MEC, what exactly would you be charging schools with, if at all? Because to be fair, the message was not as unambiguous as perhaps it could be. Had it been an instruction, wouldn't it have been clearer to all that there should be no return to school? But once you start appealing to people to not open schools, surely some of them would see it as just that, an appeal.
So again, it's just unfortunate that people say that. Our view is very simple. Sorry. Our view is very simple. Cabinet took a decision that all schools should close. And by that, it means that there will be appropriate gazette to confirm that decision. And if somebody will defy that gazette when it's publicized, it will really be unfortunate. We have one constitution in this country, and all of us are responsible for the lives of our children. And therefore, we can't expose those lives to a serious virus that is devastating and that is affecting all communities, regardless of whether you are rich or poor, or your child is going to a private school or public school. We all know that if children have to go to school, some of them have to use public transport. We all know if children have to go to school, some of them have to share transport with their siblings. We all know for teachers to go to school, they have to go through public institutions as well so that they can teach these children. So we can't be regular. And our argument is not because we hate people getting education. Our argument is very simple. We opened our borders for people that were outside our borders to come back to work. Many firms have reopened, and today is the starting day of those firms where people are coming back to work from our Christmas holidays. And therefore, the system is overburdened. You can't bring additional numbers of learners and parents to overburden the system that is already struggling. So our argument, whether it's persuasion, whether it's by law, is that let's play safe. This virus is deadly. This virus within our communities, actually this virus is amongst ourselves. And therefore, we have to take necessary steps to ensure that it doesn't cause more damage in our society.
So what's the way forward now, MEC? Because the horse has, for all intents and purposes, bolted. Schools have opened this morning. So we understand that you are on your way to Help Makar College and then to a few other schools who have opened as well. Our reporter, Nosipho, coming to us from one of the Kiro schools in Gauteng. What's the way forward for you? Are you going to go on another persuasion drive, trying to persuade these schools to close, or what is the plan?
So a carrot and stick approach, unfortunately, Sakina, will utilize that. The carrot and stick approach. If we can persuade people, and some institutions, I personally spoke to them, including the leadership of Kiro, I've brought to their attention that I'm completely unhappy about Kiro schools that are open in Gauteng. And I've given them the necessary time to review that decision. As we've indicated, there are some schools that I'm going to personally visit just to check their understanding. Maybe they know how to fight the virus that we don't know. They will share their ideas with us that maybe within the school premises they can fight it differently from what our health experts are advising us. So we'll use the carrot and stick approach and we'll go and persuade those schools where we can. But where we believe that we need to unleash the might of the law, we'll do so.
So bottom line, what is the way forward? Should children be returning to school?
Sakina, as Cabinet has taken a decision advised by health experts, all schools should delay their reopening by 2 weeks, purely because there is a wave that is currently ravaging our province, and we really believe we need to protect both our frontline staff but also our children.
So nobody's to go back to school in terms of contact learning. What about online teaching and learning?
Well, online teaching and learning cannot be stopped. If people have the facilities and the systems to do so, they can. I mean, it's in their own premises and they're protected. Remember, the intention is to protect our children against virus. The intention is to minimize crowds. The intention is to ensure that no one is exposed outside their homes. So that's the intention, not to stop. If people want to do online, they can still continue to do online.
And a final question, MEC. So if some of the independent schools are in fact insisting, like they have this morning, on going back to school, what stops some of the public schools who say that they have sufficient capacity and resources, they also want to return to school, from doing so?
So again, our position is very clear. Let's delay the reopening of schools by 2 weeks. We'll monitor the situation and advise everyone. Those that want to defy the state and defy health experts, we have to engage them and bring to their attention that it's going to cause serious problems for our society. And therefore, they should desist from reopening schools. If they've got genuine concerns, those concerns must be tabled and we must discuss them. But our position is very clear. Delay the reopening of schools by 2 weeks. We are in the middle of a surge, and this new variant of this virus is devastating and is causing unbearable pain in our communities. We don't have to add an extra number in those figures that are being shared daily. We are persuading our schools. It must not be about finances. It must not be about parents paying fees. It must be about safeguarding lives.
Now, final question, MEC, and only because parents are inundating me with questions here. They want to know whether this is an instruction now to independent schools that they should, in fact, close.
There is a decision by Cabinet influenced by health experts that was released by the Minister of Education. Remember, the Minister of Education is not the Minister of Public Education. He's the Minister of Education, not the Minister of Public or Private. He's the Minister of Education. And the Minister of Education has issued a statement persuading all our schools to delay the reopening of schools by 2 weeks. And this decision has been supported by teacher unions and parents organizations after they've been consulted by the minister. We are endorsing that decision as the Gauteng provincial government because we are the one that wrote to the minister that Gauteng is facing a surge in terms of this second wave, and therefore we really believe we need to protect life, but most importantly, we have to ensure that our numbers are managed appropriately and our health institutions are not over flooded.
So those schools that are open, are they in violation of any law, MEC?
Well, if there's a decision of cabinet, there will be in violation. As we have indicated, that we have persuaded the minister must gazette this decision so that there is there's a clear pattern that can be followed.
Well, MEC, we thank you for your time. Panyaza Lesufi is the MEC for Education in the province of Gauteng. Just talking about the reopening of schools. Some centres choosing to go back to school today, reopening, and others asked to stay put. And there was, of course, an announcement made last week by the Education Department, Department of Basic Education nationally, for schools to delay their reopening by 2 weeks.